You are now listening to two dudes in their 30s with Adam and Greg. They're gonna talk about stuff, and you're gonna listen. Okay, got it. Good. Let's start the show.
What's up?
How's it going?
Dude, good.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's cool.
Family.
It's all good. So how was your week?
All right. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You? Any word on the house?
We didn't get it.
No.
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 Put an offer in. They, I don't know what they ended up selling it for. I'll be interested to find out.
Yeah.
Like what the highest bid was.
Yeah. There'll be other places.
Yeah, exactly. I do. I have a funny story I wanted to share.
Let's hear.
I know you love these news stories.
Oh, news story.
You're like, oh, I hate these things.
All right, let's hear it.
So I thought this was pretty fitting. It says how a French solo trader made $6.6 billion in unauthorized bets. This is from how do you pronounce it? Reuters? I have no idea.
I think it's Reuters.
Reuters?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. I know they're like one of the biggest published
International news agency.
Yeah, and they're like super reputable, but
yes.
Yeah, I'm not a knowledgeable person by any means, and I do not pretend I am. So this is out of London, Paris. It says a self-employed trader.
Wait, what?
It says London/Paris. That's what it says.
I thought you said it's out of London, Paris. Like that's a place.
Yeah, London, Paris.
Okay.
So
Got
it
it.
must be the European branch. Okay.
The bureau.
It says the bureau. It says a self-employed trader in France accumulated stock futures worth $6.6 billion in a single day, and apparently he thought he was on like a practice trading platform.
My God.
So he was just going big, and somehow there was like a glitch in his brokerage, and they allowed all these trades to go through. So like overnight he lost like an insane amount of money. He was like $2 million down or something like that. And he, instead of like contacting his brokerage to try to, I don't know, reconcile like that he thought he was on like the wrong platform, he just kept going. So in a week, he actually accrued like $11 million in gains. So then he closed out all of his positions, I guess, and contacted his brokerage firm for like trying to receive all of his money. Oh my God. Apparently it's going to litigations because they won't pay.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That is wild.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No.
Oh my God.
I don't know anything about that stuff, so I guess I never get involved, but
Yeah, I'm into like doing a little bit of trading on a platform called Robinhood. It's like all free, but
that's cool.
Never that big.
How'd you beat the heat today?
I stayed inside most of the day. How about yourself?
Crazy hot. My God.
I said like a heat index of like 108 or something like that.
It's still 80, not 88 right now, and it's 8:30 at night. Playing golf tomorrow. It's supposed to be 100.
Oh God.
Which like it gets 100 other places, but the humidity here is pretty fierce.
It's unbearable.
Well. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We went up to my parents, got in the pool for a few minutes. So that was helpful, but it's still insane. You walk outside and just like hits you right in the face. I actually did my mulch yesterday, so like 20 bags of mulch, black mulch at like 11 a.m., which was a workout to say the least.
So
perfect weekend to do it.
Did you go inside at like 11:10? You're like, I'm done.
No, I hammered it out. It doesn't take that long, but it's just I should have probably done it in May. Nice cooler day.
Mm-hmm.
Not the smartest day to do it, but got done.
Wow.
In other breaking news,
Mm-hmm.
LeBron James is signed with the Los Angeles Lakers. Do you care about that?
Oh my God, I didn't hear that.
It just happened like 5 minutes ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Where'd you see that?
I was watching the Yankee game real quick, and at the ESPN scrolled it across the bottom line, so it probably happened in like the last 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
4 years, $154 million.
Good Lord. How do you think he's going to play on the team?
They'll be good. I think. Do they sign DeMarcus Cousins too, or do they want to sign DeMarcus Cousins maybe? And they want to try to trade for Kawhi Leonard also. So that would be like his super team.
Yeah.
I think there was been rumors for like a while that he was going to LA because he just bought like a big house out there or something. And I think his kid, his teenage son, his oldest son, had enrolled in a school out there like prior to this ever happening.
So people can kind of see the writing on the wall.
Yeah. But
wow.
Honestly, he's pretty impressive. Like people hate on him. But he had like a really tough upbringing. Like he had no dad. His mom like had him when she was super young, I think a teenager. I follow this guy that writes for ESPN, and he tweeted earlier that he moved at least 10 times between the ages of 5 and 8. When he was 9, he moved in with another family until his single mother could make ends meet. Over the last 15 years, he's earned approximately $130,000 per day.
It's nuts.
He married like his high school sweetheart. He has 3 kids. You don't really hear anything bad about him. It's pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, he's like an upstanding guy.
People hate on him. I like him.
Yeah, he's a great player. He'll go down as one of the best ever. I still think Jordan. I think Jordan tops him out though.
I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's hard to. It's going to be hard.
Different
to go,
eras.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to go against Jordan. Totally different players too. Like two totally different players. But, he apparently. I'm just reading this guy's Twitter feed too. This guy Darren Ravel from ESPN, who is a little bit annoying, but interesting. He's like a business reporter for ESPN, so it's like all business stuff, which is kind of interesting. In the 11 years that he played for Cleveland, he made $136 million. Now he's going to go to LA for 4 years and make $154.
Wow!
And apparently, in 20 minutes, the lowest Lakers season tickets being sold on StubHub went from $3,500 apiece to over $5,800 apiece.
Wow!
So that's what he means to them.
It's crazy how much money is in sports.
Nuts. Especially like basketball. Basketball is insane.
Yeah.
There's just so many. There's fewer guys. There's like 11, 12 guys per team. So it's just nuts. What the hell is going on at your house right now?
What? Teresa's in the kitchen. I don't know what she's doing.
Pots and pans clanging around.
At least the dog's not barking.
That's true. Did you guys do anything else fun this weekend, or not really?
No, Teresa worked both days, 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So she's exhausted. She's got a Mike's Hard Lemonade from the freezer.
Mike's Hard, huh?
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
You want to sponsor us, Mike's Hard? Drink a delicious Mike's Hard Lemonade.
My God. I had a couple
watermelon flavored.
Bad nights with those bad boys.
They always give me like really bad heartburn.
They do, yeah. You could drink 6 of them in about 5 minutes too, which is a problem.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So, what are you gonna do tomorrow? Where are you going golfing?
Playing in Van Patten, and just gonna sweat it out. We're starting at like 8:48, so we'll at least get started like early. But I ran this morning. Had to run like back on a training plan for the next race, and so I ran 9 miles this morning, and I got home at like 8:45 and thought I was gonna die. Because it was so hot, just humid and so hot, and I didn't bring any water with me or anything. But
hopefully you're only playing 9 holes tomorrow.
No, we're playing 18.
Oh my God, you're crazy!
Gonna finish up about 1 p.m. right in the middle of the day.
You're going to have like the worst sweat V down your chest.
It's gonna be bad. Yeah,
you better powder up.
We're gonna be riding in carts at least, but yeah, it's gonna be hot. I'm actually upstairs right now doing this, and I'm sweating up here. And we have the AC on. We've had it on like forever.
Wow,
it's hot.
see beads coming down your forehead.
God. What else was I going to say? Oh, should we talk about the switch to every 2 weeks now?
Yeah.
We never really talked about that in a prior episode, and this will be the first one in 2 weeks, and we had kind of announced it on Instagram last week and been a little quiet since then, but I don't know. I just think it kind of makes sense like we talked about.
Yeah, like right after so it would be like 2 weeks ago now. It was our anniversary, and then this past weekend was your guys' anniversary. And just summers are busy, so it just works out a little bit easier for us both.
Yeah, I think
with our schedules.
With just summer and like now you're back to working full time too, trying to chase people down, and like It'd be great if we could try to get ahead with some of these talks, which would be good. But then again, just chasing them down, like trying to do stuff like at night, 8 o'clock at night, whatever, 2 full-time jobs. It's more or less just fun for us, you know.
Yeah.
I think to keep it fun and keep it interesting and not just put stuff up to put it up. It's like, why not just go every 2 weeks for a while and see how that works? And so that's the plan for the near future, and we'll just kind of see what happens from there, I think.
Just try to keep putting out quality content.
I think that's the goal, rather than just scramble something together for the sake of scrambling it together. Because it's like, what's the point, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, you want to talk about what we did this week?
Yeah. So we had a cool couple on. They have a YouTube channel about their lifestyle of traveling around in an Airstream trailer, and he also writes a blog about finances and whatnot. So it was Steve and Courtney. And it was a really cool conversation kind of about their financial independence lifestyle and traveling around the U.S. And we had some cool conversations even about Seinfeld.
We did talk a little Seinfeld as well. So
yeah.
So it's thinksaveretire.com, right?
Yeah.
And what's the
website?
YouTube? Same thing?
A Streamin' Life.
Streamin' Life on YouTube. Yeah. We they were in, where were they? Wyoming?
In Wyoming. Okay. Yeah.
So we were...
they had like a really bad storm coming in. So we got cut off probably 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, something like that.
It worked out good, though. Yeah. Like, overall, it was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was. They were great. And we appreciated them like kind of making time for us and making it happen, even though they were dealing with storms and out in the middle of Wyoming.
Yeah.
Trying to make it happen. So it was good.
Yeah, it's a cool conversation. So we'll kick it over to them, I guess.
Let's check it out.
Courtney.
Hello.
Hello there.
How's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing really good. Glad that you guys could join us tonight.
Our pleasure. I hope you don't mind that we're not doing video, just because we want to make sure that our cell signal is all good and we don't bog it down, things like that.
No, it's absolutely cool. So I'm Adam. Greg is on the other end here.
Hello.
Hey, Greg.
How you guys doing?
Hey. Pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good.
What part of the country are you guys in?
Both of us are in upstate New York.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. How about yourself?
We're in Wyoming. Right on some lake out in the middle of Wyoming somewhere.
Very, very cool.
I know Adam had come across you guys recently and reached out because he's dying to not work anymore. I think so.
Yeah, we understand that.
He's like, let me learn something.
It's the freedom. I need so much freedom in my life. Yeah. Do you guys kind of want to share your background and kind of how you got to where you're at now?
Are we recording, or is this just background stuff, just for my own edification?
Yeah. So we're recording now.
Oh, okay. Very cash.
Very cash.
Yeah, we're super laid back.
It's all good. So we came from this from a perspective of we don't really want to work anymore, or at least more specifically, I don't want to work anymore because I didn't really like my full-time job. I liked what I did for. Yeah, I know. I liked my work, but I didn't like my job. I like the work, so I still try to do that on the side a little bit, but I don't really do that. I don't do that at all full-time anymore. I officially retired December 23rd of 2016, and my wife called it quits just a couple months ago.
Yeah, I tried to call it quits last April, but they actually asked me to stay on as a sabbatical and come back over the winter, and I said yes. And so I worked November through May 1st of 2018, and then I called it quits.
Okay, what did you guys do? Like, what were your guys' jobs and whatnot?
Yeah, we both worked in IT, so we had the luxury of making pretty good money, especially between the both of us. And when you save that money and not spend it, that adds up really, really quick.
Yeah. And Steve, like you said, really didn't like his job. I actually kind of enjoyed my job, and I really liked who I worked with. So for me, it was more the freedom aspect of it than the getting away from work. Whereas Steve was just trying to get away from work and figure out something else after that. And for me, it was like, okay, well, I need something good because this job's not bad and I kind of like my people.
So how'd you guys kind of formulate a game plan, almost being on different pages? Like, how'd you guys come up with a solution for like what you wanted to go after?
Well, every single night we used to walk our dogs, and during that walk we would talk about what we wanted in our future. And over time, we started to come across this plan. It started to get a little bit more and more realistic and I guess visible for us. It made a little bit more sense. So at the beginning, I just didn't want to do what I was doing. I wanted more freedom. And my wife didn't like she said, she didn't hate her job, but she would entertain better offers. And so as we continued to talk about what we wanted, travel started to make a pretty big impact into our future plans. And working full time, even from the road, that is certainly possible. But we did not want to depend on having internet access and all that good stuff. So really what made the most sense to us is save as much money as we could, as fast as we could, and then quit our jobs and travel for a living and decide what we want to do each and every day we got up.
All right. So like, do you guys have source of income right now that's like helping to sustain, or did you guys like accrue a humongous nest egg and you're living off of like retirement savings now? Like
we are open books regarding money. So our net worth is in or around $1 million, which to some people might sound like a lot. To other people, it may not sound like all that much at all. But the advantage that we have as full-time travelers in an Airstream is we do not have a house. We have no house whatsoever. Our Airstream is it. So we can live as cheaply as we need to. So as low as $300 a month sometimes for quote unquote rent, and that really equates to camping fees. But really that's it. So we plan this so we can quit our jobs and not make a dime for the rest of our lives with a reasonable expectation of success. We know that that's, there are no guarantees in life. But one of the things that we, realized about early retirement that we didn't really understand was a part of this at the beginning was how many opportunities there are out there to make money that our brains just kind of ignored when we had full-time jobs.
So going back a little bit, just to give a little background, there's something called the Trinity Study, which a lot of early retirees and FIRE people, financial independence, retire early people will talk about. The Trinity Study is a study where they looked back in time and they said, okay, how much money do you need to live for the rest of your life? How much money do you need to have saved to retire? And what they came up with was 4% of your net worth. Another way to look at it is whatever you spend in a year, you need 25 times that in order to have enough money to last you the rest of your life. And they look through the Great Depression. They look through the last 100 years of the stock market in the U.S. So that's called the Trinity Study. So that's why we came up with the $1 million mark. We said, okay, well, that would give us $40,000 a year to live on using this Trinity Study. Now, however, since we have all these opportunities that Steve alluded to, we don't actually just live off of our stock that we have put away. We make some money off of the blog that Steve runs, Think Save Retire. We make a little money off of our YouTube channel, A Stream in Life, which is about us traveling around in our Airstream. Steve does a little bit of consulting work with IT. So we're always looking for new ways to supplement our income. It gives us more fun money, to go to more breweries and things like that. But our background was that 4% Trinity Study mark.
Did you always think like that supplemental income though may be part of that, or was that just totally just kind of has come up and happened as you've organically since you started doing this?
That's a good question, and really the answer is a little bit of both. We assumed that there would probably be something, but we didn't depend on that being the reality. So I guess we built a little bit of a buffer into our lifestyle and our expenses to make sure that if for whatever reason nothing happened, we just couldn't make money, we weren't either out on the street or forced to go back to our full-time jobs. So we had no specifics in mind, but we just kind of assumed that there would be something out there, and sure enough, there really is a lot when your brain isn't preoccupied with a full-time job.
Mm-hmm. So like when you guys were ready to retire, what was that like? Like you're in your 30s, right?
Yeah, I was 35 and my wife now is 33.
Okay, so like you're super young. Everyone around you is going to be working for the next 20 years at least, basically.
More than
like,
that.
did you have a lot of kickback from people, like friends and family? Like, what the heck are you thinking? What are you doing? Like, how did that whole situation kind of
Sure,
play out?
and that's a very common question, and I had it a little bit easy in that my folks retired at 49, so that's still early retirement, and they traveled full-time in an RV for 13 years.
So you had a model.
So I kind of have this, you suck conventional wisdom in my blood.
Yes.
And I guess in that sense, it was a little bit easier for me to be able to accept the reality that, we want to do this, but it's still a risk. And I have friends that are they're spendy friends, but they're also not jackasses. So they might think that we're completely out of our minds in their head. But to their credit, I've had no friend or family member who has outwardly been hostile to me, at least to my face. They've all been fairly supportive in the vein of, oh, that's great. You might as well do that while you're young, that kind of a thing. So for the most part, I haven't had a lot of pushback.
I came from a more... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I came from a more traditional... Like, I worked for a big company. I had a big team. And they thought I was crazy, which is probably why they offered me the sabbatical, in case I thought, like, after 6 months, like, oh, my goodness, what did I just do? I took them back up on it, mostly out of guilt, because, like I said, I love my team. But I think when I came back and they saw what we had accomplished and they saw that we really liked what we were doing, a lot of them started talking to me a little bit differently. I had some of the older people in my group talking to me about retirement, about their own savings, about their own money journeys. And so that's very interesting. And that's part of the thing that we're trying to get out there, is that our story is unusual, to say the least. And we are not encouraging other people to go out and live in a 200 square foot Airstream and travel the country. That's not going to work for everybody. But there's a lot to be said for financial freedom and for reaching for that in anybody's life. And that's what we try to encourage and try to get our own story out there to get people thinking.
IT seems to be like the field to be in to make this happen, because we talked to another couple who both were like, I think they were software engineers or something, and they were both like completely burnt, but had made a good living and saved a lot of money. They were actually living in Toronto, though, and they just couldn't afford to buy a house. And so they just kept saving and kept saving and kept saving, and every time they thought they had enough, the market just kept going up and up and up and up. And so they said, instead of buying a house, why don't we not work anymore and travel and see what we can do? And they obviously took some time to plan it, whatever, before they went and did it. But, I mean, it seems like you have to, at least in your situation, you had a nice, stable, kind of, strong income that you could sock it away for a while before you kind of took the leap. How long did you kind of have this in your head that this was going to be a thing to do? I wouldn't imagine that it was, a few weeks and you decided to quit. So,
yeah. And for me, the lead up was a little bit longer because I never really liked what I did, but I didn't have an alternative yet. But then once about 6 months before I married my wife, I realized that we were going to have two IT incomes coming in. So we can do one of two things. We can live like, I don't know, maybe a more traditional lifestyle where we have the lake house, a vacation home, we take expensive trips to Hawaii, expensive dinners, those kinds of things with all that money. Or we can just save as much as we possibly can and quit as early as we can. And that's ultimately what we ended up doing. But like you said, IT is... It has two different sides, because even Mr. Money Mustache, which is considered like the grandfather of the FIRE movement, he was a software developer too. So IT pays well, but it's not very satisfying to a lot of people. So on one hand, you do make a lot of money. On the other hand, you may not be all that happy with your life. So if you play your cards right and you prioritize early retirement, IT definitely makes it easier.
You mentioned Mr. Money Mustache. Was there any other books or resources that you guys were kind of digging through and grinding through that inspired you guys?
Well, really, Mr. Money Mustache was the main blog. But in terms of books, one of my all-time favorites is The Millionaire Next Door by Dr. Thomas Stanley. He's no longer around because I think he got killed in a car accident. But his book really resonated with me. And it talks about millionaires, rich, wealthy people who walk around who look just like the rest of us. They're not necessarily driving around the BMWs and the Mercedes and the huge, $5 million houses. These are people who just live regular lives. They shop at Target just like the rest of us. And reading that book really put this whole thing in perspective for me, that to be successful and to be rich, you don't necessarily have to, quote unquote, look the part.
Yeah. And I really liked a pretty classic one in our community is Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. Is that her name? Which is coming out. They just came out with a new version of it, which has been updated for the current time period. It originally came out in their 80s or 90s. And it was similar. It really talked about how you're trading your time for money, which is in terms like trading your life. You're pretty much trading your life for whatever you're working for. And so is your life worth whatever you're trying to buy? And that put a lot of things into perspective for me.
So building off of that a little bit, you guys have obviously had to decide what you're going to spend your money on more carefully now, obviously, or very carefully now. So what are some of the things that, you guys maybe were into before that you had to cut back, or what are the things that you enjoy now that you found ways to do, more frugally, that so that you're still having fun while you're doing this, but you're not, obviously breaking the bank?
I'm going to let Steve talk about the things he had to, quote unquote, give up in order to do this, because I think he came from a different perspective than I did. I was always a saver.
Yeah, and I wasn't horrible, but I was definitely a spender. I had the supercharged Corvette. I bought that a year after college, right out of college. I bought that Vet. I dropped probably $25K into it in all these stupid upgrades, and I had the Yamaha R1 sport bike motorcycle, and I was that guy, the adrenaline junkie who had a lot of resources to just spend money on whatever he wanted to spend on. So obviously we don't spend money on that anymore. But in the end, I'm kind of glad that I did that then, because it's kind of out of my system. I no longer wonder what it's like to drive a sports car or ride a sport motorcycle. That's kind of done. That's in the past. But one of the things that I think is the biggest change for me is restaurants. I loved going out to eat. My roommate and I back in Virginia, when we lived there, we would go out to eat for lunch and dinner every single day, and I mean that quite literally. We never cooked a single lunch or a single dinner in our apartment. We went out all the time, and that was fun, but the 50 pounds on my belly was not so fun. And the $10,000 a year or whatever it was, I did not calculate it because, quite frankly, I did not want to know the money value that I was spending on all that food. But that wasn't fun either. So I guess the major cutbacks are, for us, the restaurants, which we do. We still do some, but we don't do nearly as much as I used to in a previous life. And we have really everything that we spend money on. We both have to agree that this is the right purchase, and it really, I guess, improves our future in some way.
It helps a little bit that we live in an Airstream. We have 200 square feet. We do not have a lot of space to store things. So it's not like we can go out and buy very much because we live in such a small space. And we really did, when we first started out on this, had this like push. We want to do this. We set a really strict budget. Our going out to eat budget at that point was $50 a month. We have since gone up since then. We can spend more now. It depends on how the market's doing and how we're doing with side income. But we proved to ourselves that we could do that, and that made a big difference. Now it's almost like we're splurging when we go out, when before it was more of a norm. And I think that made a difference to us, too.
For sure. I had a question because, Steve, you said, when you were working, you hated it. What was it like the first day that you guys retired and you just woke up and you didn't have to go in? And you could do anything you want with your time. What kind of emotions were going through your mind, I guess, at that time?
Yeah, it was so, I don't know, it was so freeing, but it was also way weird. Like I would get up and I would just kind of take a look around and say, okay, I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to go to an office. What do I do? I don't know. I guess I'll sit down and work on the blog a little bit. And it was almost like a little confusing at first, but over time I got in my process, and I'm a very internally self-motivated person, so I was able to, set goals, for a day, for a week, for a month, and achieve those goals and work towards them. But at first it was exciting, but it was also a little bit confusing for me because I didn't necessarily know what I should be doing.
That's a big one with early retirement. We're young, we are active, we have lots of good ideas. And one of the big problems with retirement in general is that a lot of people just retire from something. They retire from that thing that they hate. And once they do that, they're not happy because they're not retiring to anything. Right. And that is one of the big things that we talk about, is that you need to retire to something. For us, we retired to full-time travel and photography for Steve and exploring, and that has kept us really active and interested in what we're doing. But if you just retire from something, it could actually be like really exciting in the beginning and then get you kind of bored by the end, I think.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask that because we talked to another couple who was doing like van life and travel, and they hadn't fully retired. They were still doing other things. I think it sounded like, in talking to them and in sort of following them a little bit more on social media, that they may be in a place where they're like, I don't know if we're ready for this kind of full-time travel thing and to not work and have that kind of stability. And it sounded like, I don't know if they were bored necessarily, because they certainly filled their days with different things and exploring, but it just didn't seem like for them it had been like a total, this is exactly what they want to be doing. So I'm wondering if you see yourselves kind of being on the road long term, or if this is kind of what you're doing now and you imagine settling down again at some point, or kind of what the future plans are.
So for now, we plan to continue traveling in our Airstream full time as long as it's fun, as long as it works for us. We know eventually we'll probably settle down. We might do some international slow travel before we do that. But while we're traveling, we're still looking for a new home base. We don't have any place we have to settle. So every city we go to, we kind of put ourselves there and say, could we live here? Would we want to? Mm-hmm. And so that's something we're always looking for.
Cool. Have you guys had any crazy stories, mishaps, or lessons maybe learned on the road?
I guess the one lesson that really strikes me is don't neglect your tires. We had a tire blowout at 70 miles an hour pulling our 10,000-pound Airstream in the middle of Utah, heading west toward Nevada. And it was like a gunshot in my left ear. It was bad. I mean, that tire got ripped to shreds and caused some body damage to the truck, and also severed, by the way, the fuel line from where you actually fill up your truck to the gas tank. So we could not fill up the truck. Physically could not fill up the truck with more diesel. So in that case, I know this isn't like a lifestyle or mind game kind of learning experience for us, but just in general, we were going to replace our tires later that year anyway, but we just didn't do it at that point. So never neglect your tires, because they are so important, and that could have ended a lot worse. Because severing the fuel line, if there was a spark, then I mean, who knows what could have happened there. Wow. So we consider ourselves fortunate.
Wow. Hopefully, you have insurance.
I was going to say, a strange thing that we've learned that we didn't really anticipate is more about, so now we're on the road, community. Community is kind of a big deal, and we left where we were staying in Tucson, where we had our home base, and last year by the end of our travels, we were starting to kind of miss the community, to miss the friends, to miss the family. And part of this lifestyle is the fact that we can go to family and friends. We can pick up and be wherever we need to be for whatever reason. But this year we're making a much bigger effort in meeting people on the road and continuing relationships and keeping community, because without work when you're constantly seeing the same people every day, even if you don't consider them your friends. It's just the two of us. And as much as I love my husband, seeing him and only him 24/7 for months at a time is not healthy, let's say, for our relationship.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah,
No,
I'd be
totally
in big
understand
trouble.
what you mean.
I'd be in big trouble.
Like my wife and I, we just moved back from San Diego. Like, she's a nurse. She does travel nursing for like the last year and a half. So we did Phoenix for 6 months, and then we went to San Diego for like a year. And I totally get what you're saying with the community. And if you don't have people, you're just constantly out there on your own. I don't know. You do get a little bit stir crazy, and you definitely miss your family and friends. So totally
Yeah,
get you.
for us, it's a lot of social media. So in Instagram, we'll post post a picture of our campsite, and literally somebody will see us, and they're on the same road, and they'll be like, "Oh, we saw you driving in. Let's get together for some beer or wine," and they'll walk over with some box wine, and we'll have a good time. So sometimes we just have to say, okay, we don't want socializing. We want a night for ourselves. We don't want to talk. But then other times we're craving that kind of social interaction. So it really ebbs and flows, I think, from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. What kind of advice would you guys have for maybe young people that are looking to really start putting away money and really start to invest and whatnot? Like, what kind of advice would you guys give?
First one for me would be to know your why, because it's really hard to put away a lot of money or to sacrifice in your daily life unless you have a really good reason to do it. And for us, the freedom to travel was our reason. And that spurred us. Our nightly conversations, like Steve said, walking the dogs, we talk about all the places we could go and see and all the things we could do. And that made it much easier not to buy that thing or not to go out to that party or not to go out to that restaurant. And so that really helps.
And for me, I think I run an early retirement and financial independence blog, but I want people to understand that you don't have to want to retire early in order to achieve financial independence. Those are two very, very different things. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in not retiring early, but still striving to achieve financial independence. Because once you have the money there sitting in your bank account or investments or whatever, you have so many more options available to you. For example, if you like your job now, your company might get bought out, or you might get a new manager, and it might totally suck. And if you are FI, if you are financially free, you have the option to just upright and quit. If it gets bad enough, you quit. And even if you don't work for 6 months, your money easily gets you by, or even a year or 5 years or whatever that time frame looks like. Financial independence just gives you options. So I want to stress the point that FI is different than early retirement. We didn't want to spend the rest of our lives working, but we do not in any way criticize those who do. But we still highly encourage people to work towards FI because that gives you so many options for the rest of your life.
Cool. And then maybe it's like some really good investments that you guys have made in life.
We are hands-off investors, so we don't have a lot. We don't have a lot of wisdom in that sense. We are targeted, Vanguard, targeted retirement, life
like
strategy
index funds.
Exactly, mutual
Yeah.
funds. We do not pick and choose stocks. We understand that you can make a lot of money. Like if you invested in Amazon back in the 80s or 90s or whatever, you could be a millionaire now. But I mean, those case studies are so rare that you can make a lot of money, but there's also a lot of risk. So for us, we feel a lot better, and we're not nearly smart enough, by the way, to invest in certain companies in the stock market because we don't pay attention enough to that area of life. So we just like to throw our money in targeted retirement accounts or life strategy funds, mutual funds, have it automatically diversified within the market, and just let the market do what it does best.
Yeah. I think that the other couple we talked to was really invested into like index funds, the S&P 500 funds or something like that. I just didn't know your guys' background, I guess, if you had any real estate or anything like that.
Yeah, I lost probably 120 grand in real estate, so I'm not all that happy about real estate investment. I mean, I certainly understand you can make money. You absolutely can. But I just happened to buy in February of 2007, and if you look at the spike in home values, it was February of 2007. So the day I bought my house, my money pit, it was never worth what I paid for it. So you can make money in real estate, but it's not necessarily a guarantee. It just depends on when you buy, and I totally did it wrong.
And I would suggest, so the first step is always to have an emergency fund. So make sure you have enough money to cover big emergencies. If you're trying to save, that's something we've seen people who do invest in the stock market. If something bad happens, they don't have an emergency fund, things can go really bad really quick. We both matched for our retirement. If both of our companies did up to, I think, 4%, 5% in our retirement funds, we both matched that. And so those were kind of our basics. And then once we decided to kick it up hardcore, we maxed out both of our retirement funds. And then we started investing into a brokerage account with just index funds in Vanguard. And so that was our strategy. And we do keep, since we're on the road, we don't have any full-time jobs. We don't know what's going to happen with the market. We do keep about 3 years of living expenses in an Ally savings account because they have the best interest. But that's just because we know we need to make sure we're prepared in case anything happens in a few years.
I'm an HR guy. You never give away your free money, man. Take the match. You got to match it at least.
Exactly.
Totally. Absolutely.
We're bouncing around here a little bit, but what about the places you guys have seen, recommendations or places that just kind of blew you away, or just things you've learned from being on the road about this country, maybe areas you hadn't seen before?
So one of the places we loved visiting is Valley of Fire, which is a state park in Nevada. That's something that nobody really thinks about or even knows it's there. It's like an hour, I think, from Vegas or something. But that was an absolutely beautiful state park. Lots of red rocks, and there's bighorn sheep everywhere. And that was also our first trip. So that might have something to do with our general perspective, but it's still a really, really, really beautiful area. And of course, everywhere in Utah is just absolutely amazing.
We also really liked Idaho and Wyoming, neither of which are states that people really talk about, but we spent a few weeks in Idaho. We want to go back, and we're just finishing up 2 weeks in Wyoming. And again, we did not spend enough time here, and we want to come back. Not as many people, beautiful landscapes, the people are nice, and so we've really enjoyed those two states as well.
It's a touristy spot, but my buddy went to Coeur d'Alene, and he was blown away in Idaho, just absolutely blown away.
It's funny you say that because a couple of years before we achieved early retirement, we were in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
And I remember to this day going to a coffee shop and thinking to myself, someday I'm going to be in this very coffee shop in Coeur d'Alene and I'm going to be early retired. And that was, and that was like the major, like, I don't know, goal or
turning point.
Some kind of, exactly, in the future that I wanted to be in this exact spot in a few years when I retired early. So I totally get the love affair with Coeur d'Alene because it's an amazing state.
We'll be there in 3 weeks, so we're
go.
planning on going back to that coffee shop.
Cool. That's awesome. You got much more? We probably shouldn't keep you guys much longer, so you don't have to keep worrying about calling us back. But do you want to talk about Seinfeld?
Yeah, we read that you're really into Seinfeld.
I know almost every line of every episode of Seinfeld.
Well, then we are the same then. Absolutely. I'm
really
an
nice,
obsessive
nice.
Seinfeld follower. My wife is she struggles with it. It's just on TBS all the time, and so I have it on literally every night. I've seen every episode a million times. I'll pause them and tell her to come here and watch this because it cracks me up. I'm that guy for sure with Seinfeld, no doubt about it, where I can literally annoy people by talking through the entire episode, saying the lines before they start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Okay, fine. I have finally met my Seinfeld brethren.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean,
We're curious. Do you have a vanity plate, Ass Man? on your trailer?
No. I have never really aspired to be a proctologist. But yeah, not Ass Man. We have just a regular plate, unfortunately.
We don't have to go down this rabbit hole too far, but I have to say about Seinfeld, and when I watch it with my wife, it all is still very relative today, besides like the technology. Like
it really is.
The human interactions, like the issues, the things that they kind of talk about that if you only have seen one episode once, you don't get. Like if you watch it a bunch of times, like it really is, to me, it really is still funny and relevant today, even though it went off the air how many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows a soup Nazi kind of guy, or a David Putty, the mechanic who just doesn't screw you, but yet you never want to say anything bad because you don't want to offend him, which Jerry did.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's really a show about nothing, but it's also a show about everything. And I don't know. I watched that ever since I was a teenager, and I don't know how I related to it back then. But
I was actually thinking about that sometimes too, because I can remember like playing baseball. Like I'm 30. How old am I? 34 now. So I was like playing a baseball game when I was a kid, and like the final episode was about to come on. So I had to like get home because I was like obsessed with it, and I would like record the episodes on VHS and like watch them back, and I had no way of relating. I probably didn't even get most of the jokes, but for some reason it grabbed me. And today, now, like 20 years later, I'm still like too obsessed with it. And I'm not even a massive fan of Jerry Seinfeld's stand-up. But I just love the show.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I mean, he's funny as a stand-up comic, but the show just, I mean, that was like over the top hilarious. And that's probably the interaction between him and the other characters, but. Yeah, I used to record it on VHS. I used to watch them over and over again.
Yep.
Certain episodes I've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and I'm almost sick. I'm almost to the point of being sick of those episodes, but I'm not quite at that point yet.
Don't let it happen.
I doubt it will.
We live in an Airstream without much. We have no TV and no cable at this point, so it's whatever he can stream on YouTube or whatever else. So he doesn't see them as much as he used to.
Oh my God, I'm a mess though. Like I'll watch the bloopers from every season on YouTube and just crack up at those.
He does that too.
I like the fact that Michael Richards like doesn't like anybody breaking and laughing during scenes because he's crazy. I like all that. I mean, I'm just
Yeah. Yeah, I read some behind the scenes stuff where Michael Richards actually got like adamantly
very annoyed when
somebody
people would laugh
didn't know
in his scene.
their lines.
Yeah, he would get very annoyed when anybody, because he's not really a comedian. He's more of like a trained actor, and he would get very annoyed if anybody laughed in his scene. But it's like, how could you not laugh at him? I mean, it's just, I don't know. And then he was a racist, so that was a problem.
Yeah, I'm sure you watched Curb Your... I'm sure you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm too.
Yeah.
From Larry.
Yeah. I mean, same type of humor, just a little bluer, but
yeah, exactly.
I mean, a lot bluer, but still funny to me. I don't care. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Me too.
Nice. So, do you guys have anything else you guys want to share? Any stories or anything like that before we kind of wrap it up, and you can tell people where they can find you?
I don't think I have any stories, but you can find our early retirement side of things and financial independence. That's on the blog thinksaveretire.com, and we also document in video our travel experiences.
Yes, in our Airstream, going all to these cool places and experiencing all these cool things, and that's at A Stream in Life on YouTube. And we're both on Instagram at A Stream in Life and at Full Time Explorers. If you ever want to see where we are and want to try to meet up, we're always looking for new people to meet up with and to try new things with.
That's right.
Very cool. Hey, we thank you very much for your time and just appreciate, just sharing life with us. It's really cool to hear from a couple that is kind of living what I want to be doing. but you're inspiring. Absolutely. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It was our pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you both. Enjoy Wyoming. So that was Steve and Courtney from thinksaveretire.com and their YouTube channel, A Stream in Life. That was cool. We appreciated them taking the time, like we said earlier, to have a chat with us, give us some tips, talk a little bit about what they're doing. I think the cool thing is they're just kind of willing to share their story the way that they've done it, and they're not trying to say that it's right for everybody or that anybody should do it. I think their biggest point is that anybody can do it regardless of the situation, and they, again, they just kind of like laid out their story and chatted with us pretty casually, so it was fun. And I know you brought them to the table. That's been kind of your area lately, so I'm sure you got a lot out of it as well.
Yeah, I just enjoy the whole financial independence aspect of life. Like that, at one day, that would be so cool to get there. Obviously, like everyone retires someday day in life, but if you can get there in your 30s, 40s, like how much more enjoyable would the rest of your life be? I feel like.
No doubt.
And spend all that extra time with your kids, your wife.
Yep.
I don't know, just the freedom it brings. So
yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. You got something out of it.
Yeah. Speaking of freedom, this is it's 4th of July in a couple days.
Yes,
so
good transition.
Don't blow your face off or any other appendage with the fireworks, you crazy kids.
Yeah.
Be safe out there. Enjoy the day. If you have to work, thanks for working.
Yeah.
Again, thinksaveretire.com, streaming life on YouTube, and you can find us at 2dudes30 everywhere. We're happy to be back after a 2-week hiatus, and we'll be back every 2 weeks for the near future, trying to bring you guys kind of fun chats and conversations, whether it's just Adam and I or bringing in a guest as well. So thanks for checking us out again and coming back. Adam?
Yeah, hopefully you guys have a good 4th of July.
Oh yeah, the 4th. Enjoy. Independence Day. Here's Enigmatic Heart. Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
The What's this?
That's a microphone. Want to sing a song?
Uh-huh.
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I will nobody go round and down. People want to go up and down, over the town.
You say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.